Welcome back to Living with a Classic and my 1972 Rover P6. It's a 3,500, so that's a 3.5-liter V8 in it. And it's been back on the road now for a couple of weeks. I've been enjoying it and driving it, using it as a summer daily here in this great weather. And I want to give a little bit of an update on it because it's my first Rover. I mean, I've had lots of other classics, mostly Jags, and it's been my first experience with one of these. I've driven a couple before and I've looked at them because I've always wanted one. Never found a nice one. I found this one pretty much unrestored. It has some paint at some point, but it looks like it's unwelded and never rusted anything. So it's a nice example, and it's been really fun now to enjoy it for a couple days. I've taken it on longer and longer trips, and right now I just went to a good friend of mine who lives around here, who works on old car interiors. He does wood and things like that, and I dropped off some things there and showed him my Rover. And so let's do a little bit of walk around. I'll show you the car, then we'll drive it back, and I'll talk about some impressions of what it's been like to really daily drive this thing for a couple of weeks now. Here it is at an old gas station, and this is a friend of mine's, Austin, over there, which always sits there as some decoration. But the Rover here, so I believe it's Monza Red. It's 1972, and well, I've absolutely fallen for it. I think it's a gorgeous thing. Still haven't done anything with the paint. I'm going to polish up a bit, get rid of some of the scratches and things. I have new clips on order for trim because one of the trim pieces was loose in the boot on the other side, so I'm going to fit that. Otherwise, I really just put fuel in it and I've been driving it. I've been taking my kids to daycare. I always use all my cars as normal transport as much as I can, and it's been absolutely great. Rear seat is a little cramped, so when I have my daughter sitting there in the back on this side, I usually have my seat forward a bit just to give her a little bit more room. So that is the one thing I sort of feel about this car. Rear seats are a little bit cramped. Otherwise, they're very solid. The doors feel really, really solid. Everything else is just really rather nice. One thing I've really enjoyed is this face ventilation right here. There's one on both sides, and you get just really nice ventilation in your face while you're driving along. But it runs absolutely sweet as a nut. Just fire straight into life. It just runs absolutely beautifully. So let's go for a little bit of drive, and I'll tell you about what it's like to drive this thing. There we go, let's drive. We'll go out here. It is a quite easy car to drive a little fast in. I'm gonna get both windows up a little bit so hopefully you can hear me better. It's quite hot today. It's maybe 27, 28 degrees Celsius. So if I look a little hot, that's why. But the Rover is staying cool, staying basically at thermostat temperature the whole time. And accelerating nicely, shifts nicely as well. Transmission is getting better and better. I'm going to service it one more time. Remember when I got it, that was the one thing, it wasn't shifting well and it was making a weird sort of whining noise, but it's getting better and better the more I drive it. So what is a Rover 3500 like to drive? Well, this one doesn't have power steering. I don't really feel like it needs it. It has quite a big steering wheel. I mean, when you're parking, parallel parking, it can be a little tight, but I'm used to driving cars without power steering because I don't mind it. The steering is very nice and direct. Even though it's a steering box, it feels really good. It accelerates quite briskly, actually, for what it is. Horsepower rating, it's very close to the XJ6, and it's lighter, so it almost feels a little bit quicker sometimes. So we'll see here, this car is going to pull over here, and then we can do a little bit of an acceleration here. I'll do a kick down. And 3,000. Shifts down to about 2. Absolutely, absolutely lovely thing. Let me close this window a bit here. But yeah, I've really, really enjoyed driving this thing. Getting ready to actually take it to a couple shows a little bit later, which will be fun. I want to fix a couple small things on it back then. I do have another back box for it because this one's blown. But otherwise, really, really nice to drive. Once I have driven it a little bit more, there will be a comparison video, which should be really fun, comparing this to my 1975 XJ6. Two quite similar cars if you think about it, but also very, very different. The Rover suspension is a lot softer and it leans more, but it leans with confidence. You never feel like it's going to lose grip or anything, even going through corners. And it's a car I find myself driving a little bit too fast all the time. It just wants to go. So I don't think it's definitely going to be a keeper here on the channel. Just because, I mean, I always liked the way it looked, and that's why I want to keep it. This is such a nice example, but I find myself smiling every single time I drive it. So it's definitely staying. I mean, yeah, we're gonna slow down. We're actually going a little bit too fast. It's just an easy car to go fast in. I think it's an easy car to cover a lot of miles in. We might find that out sometime in the future when we take this thing on a little road trip. I think that would be really fun. But I'm loving the V8. It is silky smooth for being like a V8. I mean, it's definitely not V12 smooth, but it's very smooth. When you're at a red light in gear, you can't really feel that the engine's on. You just hear that slight little burble. And my favorite thing about the car, let's see if I can show you that. We'll pull over here, and so let's pretend right now that I'm at like a red light or something, and you're standing here. You can get green, and you just give it that little bit of throttle, and you hear that V8 just burbling a little bit. Those of you who are familiar with my channel, you know that we're coming up to the world's shortest tunnel, but it's a tunnel nonetheless. Of course, we're going to downshift a little bit. And that is the thing about the P6, is that lovely V8 burble, which is absolutely fantastic. And then it leans a little bit here in the corners, but you can push it. Really, really nice handling. That is what really, is making me keep the car, because it doesn't really matter how pretty a car is. Well, of course it matters, but if you don't enjoy to drive it, what's the point? All the classics I have, I really just try and drive all of them. I usually alternate them. Half a week I drive this thing, or another half a week I drive another. I've just been driving this one now for 2 weeks, just because it's new. It's a new toy and you want to play with it. But in a couple of weeks, I'm probably going to put it away for a little bit and then drive something else for a little while. But it is a very, very fun car that I am very excited that you guys have enjoyed seeing the content on. That also helps, knowing if I'm going to keep something or not. But this is one for the collection. I'm sorry about the little bit of wind noise from the windows. It is just too hot not to have them open a little bit. So yeah, those are the first thoughts here on the Rover after driving it really daily for about 2 weeks or so. I have really, really enjoyed it. It's I can't really describe it. It is very different from the XJ6, but I do like it. I mean, and the Series 2 XJ Jag, as you guys know, that's like my favorite car in the world. That's why I have 3 of them. But in some senses, this thing is better to drive. It is, just because it's a little bit smaller, a little bit nimbler on these roads here, which are quite twisty, turny. It is a blast to drive. Anyways, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and share it with friends. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, please do subscribe to the channel. It really does help out a lot. Until next time, I'm Adam. This was Living with a Classic. I'll see you soon.